Dun 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 dun. Astrology is now. Welcome, my beautiful brothers and sisters and fellow radiators of love, to Astro Fenixx, flying into the moment yet again and radiating love as always. And this is the Astrology is Now podcast, episode number 9. How are y'all doing? How was your week? How's your weekend going? This is the show, of course, where we talk a bit about the astrology and what's going on in the astrology now. But of course, I always look into the past to see what happened then, look into the future because, well, everything is happening right now. Past, present, future. That's why I say astrology is now. Because I think it's important to consider all of these things. And when we look from the perspective of God, universe, source perspective, everything is happening right now anyways. So what may have happened a day ago, or a week ago, or a month ago, or a year ago, or a decade ago, or a century ago, or millennia ago for us, it's all happening at the same time as far as God goes, because God is outside of time. Interesting way to begin this off. So in this particular episode, I'm not sure how long it's going to go, but we're just going to, channel the astrology, see what's going on. And particularly, I want to talk about, the last episode, I was speaking on the galactic center point and how Jupiter is at that spot right now. The galactic center point is this incredible portal of, I would say, transformation, but I almost feel like it is where we're like knighted by the galaxy, where we're knighted by the center and focal point of the Milky Way galaxy, and we're given updates to our galactic mission. So it is this moment of great and deep fate and destiny. And it is currently at 27 degrees of Sagittarius. Of course, with these kind of markers like this, anytime you get like a major point like the galactic center, or if you have like a larger planet or something like that, you usually give it about like a 4 to 5 degree orb of influence. So even though the technical spot of this galactic center point is 27 degrees, Jupiter is still here. At the time of me making this, Jupiter has actually moved to 28 degrees. And the reason why this was so huge, you should go back and listen to the last podcast episode, but just to quickly reiterate, the 2012 shift that we had was, in fact, the galactic center point moving from 26 Sagittarius to 27 Sagittarius. Effectively meaning that over the past few days, while Jupiter was at 27 degrees, this is the first time that Jupiter has actually conjuncted this galactic center point since the 2012 Mayan predicted, and of course many other cultures predicted it, the major spiritual shift that we all experienced 7 years ago, which is, of course, huge. It's massive. And the energy may have come across rather subtle, despite the fact that Jupiter isn't really a subtle energy. But considering the fact that, if you believe aspects of science, we're apparently somewhere on the outskirts of the Milky Way galaxy. We're like somewhere on one of those outer bands, one of those outer arms. So it can appear subtle since we seem to, or at least science likes to tell us, that we're so far away from the galactic center point. But I like to think that everything that we see is a reflection of what's on the inside. So these transformations, this knighting, this coming into new fate and destiny is something that happened within each and every one of us. So it's not like a powerful being came out of the sky and like knighted us, although it can kind of be like that. But that's not literally what physically happened over the past few days. But in an internal sense, in a more subtle sense, that's really what happened. But right now, Jupiter is at 28 degrees, but it's still within that influence of the galactic center. So if you haven't already checked out episode 9, I highly encourage you to go check it out because I definitely I definitely went in and went deep with the astrology. But what's important about this weekend is the fact that we do have Jupiter and Venus conjuncting in Sagittarius within a degree of the galactic center. And this, of course, is huge. Now, Venus crosses Sagittarius pretty much every year. So, and of course, don't quote me on that. I have to actually go back and look at it. But it crosses this spot a lot more frequently than Jupiter. So, this is a massive moment. And actually, I encourage you to do this if you're able to do so, if weather permitting. I encourage you tonight and tomorrow night, Sunday night, to go out and look at the stars, and you will actually be able to see illuminated Jupiter and Venus coming very, very, very close to each other. And this energy right here is quite a spectacle to behold. I would say even if it is cloudy, to go up and look at the stars and see if you can intuitively find it. Or, if you want to use technology, you can download like an app on your phone. I have an app on my phone. I think it's called Sky Map, where it actually shows you where all the stars are, and it even shows you where the planets are. Venus, of course, is one of the brightest quote-unquote stars in the sky, as is Jupiter. So when we get these bright, illuminated energies coming together, and of course in the sign of Sagittarius, which is all about, our belief structures. It is about faith. It's about the adventure. It's about destiny. It's about the journey. It's about knowledge and wisdom. It's about these energies. And with it being on the galactic center point, this is definitely some you were destined to be a warrior, king, queen type deal. This is that kind of energy. This is the sort of energy that you see, that you read in books, that you see in movies where some unsuspecting character gets thrust into this whole adventure and they're like, oh yeah, you were like the long lost child or something of like this great emperor or empress, and then you're whisked away on this adventure in this whole new land. That's kind of what's happening here, metaphorically. That's happening here. So when you have the planet of Jupiter, the planet of expansion, good luck, fortune, but also experience, because a lot of times people like to think that Saturn is about experience, but Jupiter is most so as well. A lot of people like to kind of put this sort of blanket term that Saturn is tough and Jupiter is not tough. But Jupiter will let you go through situations and experience things just so you can grow. Just so you can grow. And we have to remember Jupiter does have a retrograde phase as well, so it does contract. But now that Jupiter is moving forward, this is about our expansion. And then add Venus to the mix, the planet of love, planet of romance. It is the planet of relationships, camaraderie, beauty. So when you bring these energies together in the sign of Sagittarius, this is a major moment where the universe is opening up a deep understanding that the entirety of this journey in this life and our purpose is really beautiful. No matter what's happening to us, it is beautiful. And it is for our expansion. And sometimes that can be hard to see. Sometimes we can get caught up on our circumstances. Sometimes we can get caught up on other people's circumstances. It's like we're always wanting to give advice to other people. When it comes to taking our own advice, let's be frank, we suck eggs at it. We suck. We suck at taking our own advice. But this is definitely one of these moments where, like I said, if you have the opportunity, go outside. Even if it's cloudy, go outside and I trust me when I say that starlight, that energy, that illuminated energy that is shining off of Venus and Jupiter, of course, I guess reflecting the energy of the sun. But I also believe that planets are essentially underdeveloped stars. So they have a star within their core as well. They can shine their own light, but that's my personal belief. Just sitting outside under the gaze of Venus and Jupiter Saturday night, Sunday night, will be super powerful. A lot of times people like to charge their crystals and stuff under the full moon. I would say charging them under the conjunction of Venus and Jupiter may in fact be powerful, maybe a little bit more powerful, maybe a little bit more potent. This is a huge moment, and it's hard to kind of put in words, honestly. That's the weird thing about it, because you got to think about it. We also have Mercury here, in Scorpio, and Mercury is desperately trying to get out of Scorpio. But the funny thing is that after that, Mercury has to go into Sagittarius. Mercury doesn't like to be in Sagittarius. Mercury is desperately trying to get to Aquarius energy, where it can at least begin to conceptualize what the fuck is going on here. But the reason why this energy is so hard to put in words is because Mercury doesn't like to be in Sag, Its opposite is ruler of Gemini. So when it comes to these vast amounts of knowledge and information that Sagittarius in many ways brings, it's sort of like the big picture. It's hard to put it in words. It's hard to put it in words. I myself actually have Mercury and Sagittarius in the first house, so I kind of have had this theme where I can kind of put the big picture in words, but even then I feel like I fail to do so. But it's sort of like one of my tasks to observe this world and to put what I experience into words to the best of my ability. But this is a sort of energy that you really do want to feel deep into. We also have to remember the Sun is also now in Sagittarius. So it's lending to this energy. We have the Sun, Venus, and Jupiter all in Sagittarius. These are stereotypically very positive energies. Jupiter and Venus are considered the benefics. If you break that word down, that means that they are generally beneficial and they're positive. Sagittarius is generally a rather positive sign. It is a sign of hope, and it's kind of weird because out of the positive emotions, hope probably has one of the lowest vibrations in that spectrum. But hope is actually something that does allow us to get through the dark times. You gotta think, why is Sagittarius season the last? It's the last sign before winter. It's because in its mutable fire, meaning that fire, it's not direct and powerful like Aries. It's not fixated and stable like Leo, but it is mutable. It is, it is changing. It is morphing. It occurs during one of the coldest months of the year, the coldest times of the year, right before it starts to get really, really cold. And these are where all of our holidays are, They congregate around this time, even though Christmas technically falls in Capricorn season. This is the holiday season, which is about coming together. It is about family. It is about warmth. It is about, in many ways kind of stuffing ourselves to sustain us through the winter months. Because when the winter months come, if you think about it from like a natural standpoint, things become barren, things become cold, things become a little bit more dire. So we have Sagittarius season. It's here to bring that hope. It's here to bring that light, that heat, and that energy, and that warmth to sustain us through the winter months. So Sagittarius in many ways represents hope. So to have these beneficial planets here, with the Sun, of course, represented by our heart, the gifts that we give this world, the light that's within each and every one of us is in the sign of Sagittarius, as well as Sagittarius' ruler in Jupiter, and Venus being here as well. I could first off say that if any of you all get into relationships over this time, these are relationships that were absolutely 100% fated. 100% fated, because, with it being here on the galactic center point, there's no way it could not be fated. If you were supposed to meet them, whether it's a friend, whether you rehash things with family members, whether it is romantic. This is Venus here in Sagittarius is probably as close as you could get to the twin flame slash soulmate relationship. I can think like that's probably as close as you can get to it. Now, me personally, I do believe in twin flames and soulmates, but I think that of course these words and these phrases have oversaturated the market, and I feel like a lot of people are looking for their twin flame and they are desperate to find their twin flame or their soulmate. And I always say is like, you don't want to find them. You don't want to find them. It's not all flowers, rainbows, butterflies, and sunshine. It's not all like that. When I think of twin flame, I think of binary star systems. Twin flames, it's literally two rotating flames. I think of a binary star system. And usually when you look at a binary star system, there is one star that is more dominant than the other. And a lot of times, it will even feed off of the other star. So what happens in these twin flame relationships is that they are so karmic and they're so magnetic. But oftentimes what you'll find is that one of the partners in that relationship will feed off energetically the other person. Which is why a lot of times twin flame relationships will begin abruptly because it's so magnetic, but they will also end abruptly. They will end abruptly. Twin flames come together for deeper spiritual missions. And a lot of times it's really unaware, like they're both unaware of such. And a lot of times, a lot of the work that they do together may appear mundane in this world, but they have bigger implications in these more subtle realities. A lot of times this happens through our dream states. Then you have soulmates. Soulmates are individuals that you have journeyed with a lot, journeyed with through many, many lifetimes. Twin flames, I think, are a little bit more rare because I think for those kind of relationships to work, they can only pop in and out every so often. But soulmates are people that you have journeyed with many, many times. This is why you have a lot of memory. You have a lot of emotional memory about it. When I think of the soul, I think of the moon. I think about this water energy, and water does carry energy. Everything is water. So that's the thing with soulmates. This is an individual that you have journeyed with many lifetimes. You probably have switched roles multiple times. And if you think about journeying, this is that Sagittarius energy. So any of you who happen to have Venus in Sagittarius, or your partner has it, or you met while Venus was in Sagittarius, or maybe even in your composite chart. For example, me and my wife, our composite Venus is actually 22 degrees of the, our composite Venus is actually 22 degrees of Sagittarius. So I know that we have journeyed a lot together. We've been with each other in many lifetimes, and we gravitate towards each other. There have been times where we don't meet up. There are times where we meet up and nothing really happens per agreements by our souls and our spirit. But I know that we have journeyed with each other a lot. So there's a lot of emotional memory there between us two. And these connections are going to be activated during this time, and they're going to become much more powerful if you are not in what you feel as a, and I'm speaking mainly right now in a romantic sense. If you're not in a relationship or a soulmate relationship, then be on the lookout. Actually, I would even say be on the lookout, but just keep an open heart because it's probably going to pop into your lap. Or at least there's going to be some sort of indication that this is going to occur. Of course, you also want to look at where Sagittarius lands in your chart. So for me, this is my first house. So for me, yes, it can deal with relationships, but more importantly, it's a relationship with myself. A deeper relationship with myself and establishing new behaviors so I can, create a new reality for myself. So that's just kind of breaking it down simply as far as how I'm going to be experiencing these energies. them being, like I said, in my first house, this conjunction. But, several of you very well may meet people during this time, and you're going to know them, and you're going to be like, how do I know you? Why do I know you? Have we met before? You probably have. You probably have met them before. And it can be kind of eerie, it can be kind of strange too. You may even find yourself finishing each other's sentences, but it's like, wait, what happened? I just met this person like 5 minutes ago. What is it? Why is my heart gravitating towards this person? If you happen to be in a relationship, this aspect can also really bring about new change, and it can really spark a new foundation for your relationship and for the love that you have for each other to grow. I say that because this conjunction is happening at 28 degrees. 2 plus 8 equals 10. And 10 is, if you follow Step Astrology by Christopher Witecki, this is designated by the Taurus energy, which is ruled by the Earth. So it's about manifestation. It is about the base. It is about that deep structure, those roots. So not only are you going to be establishing a more solidified base for these relationships, but this is also going to be deepening the relationship that we have with the Earth itself, to Mother Gaia, deepening that relationship as well. I know it can seem a little dire in our world right now, because it would seem like, we are hurting our mother, and, we are going through the sixth mass extinction, and, we're polluting, and there's climate change and stuff like that. And I do believe in climate change. I also believe that our contribution is not as inflated as we think, because nothing on us, we're not that powerful. We're not more powerful than Mother Gaia to change it. Like, she could just snap her fingers, and whatever we did to, I guess, accelerate climate change, it will just be disbanded. So I think honestly, believing that we are one of the sole reasons why there's climate change and this acceleration of these strange weather patterns, I think it's our ego getting in the way, because we think we're so great and we think we're so powerful, and we think that we are the apex beings on this earth because we have pretty much dominated this earth. But we really don't give Mother Gaia the credit that she deserves, because she's going through her cycles too. Essentially, she's in heat. If you think about it, she's essentially in heat. The core is warming up, the sun is warming up, and yes, we have these strange weather patterns where it's like, we'll be like really, really hot. We get record temperatures on both ends of the spectrum. But essentially, Mother Gaia is in heat, which means that she's getting ready to birth a new reality. She's cooking. She's pregnant. Mother Gaia is pregnant, and she's cooking up some good stuff. She's cooking up some good stuff, and we are in her womb, and we're getting ready to be reborn. But we do have to go through this, gestation period. We do have to go through this period where we are just chilling in the womb and developing. That is really going to be, in my opinion, this whole gestation period of, as far as like us being in the womb, I think it's going to go essentially until Uranus leaves Taurus officially. That's just my personal belief, because if you look into the mythology, Uranus and Gaia were a couple. So when Uranus officially goes into Gemini, then that's really going to be when this new reality is going to be born. You can also say it's going to be sometime after these next 5 years. Once Pluto comes into Aquarius, we're going through this mini dark age Uranus doesn't officially hit Gemini. We'll look that up in a moment, but that's kind of essentially what's going on here. Mother Gaia is pregnant. What is she pregnant with? An infinite amount of timelines that the Earth can take. And each and every one of us, this includes all the creatures in the world, not just humans. We are casting our vote and our ballot for the direction of this Earth and where it's going to head. I don't think it's going to be a doomsday scenario. I don't think so. I don't think that the world's just going to implode or something. I don't think it's going to be like that. I think societies may implode. I think human systems may implode. But I don't think it's going to be this whole super dire thing as far as like some sort of apocalyptic thing. Now, some people are casting their votes for these kind of scenarios. And these type of scenarios, these different iterations of the Earth, actually will exist on some plane of existence. Otherwise, you wouldn't really be able to think about it, because it's got to come from somewhere, right? The signal's got to come from somewhere. So they do exist, which means, of course, there's a possibility that the timeline that we're all in, or experiencing for some reason, we're all experiencing this timeline. There's a chance that it could be some sort of zombie apocalypse. I don't think it will be, though. I personally don't think it will be. But some of you listening to this actually come from those other timelines. Some of you guys come from those other timelines. Actually, all of us come from some other timeline of, how Earth has progressed in its evolution. And we have actually traveled back to this time. Some people to make sure that their vote stays the same. Some people are going to actually change and recast their ballot because they come from a timeline where they thought that they wanted what they voted for, but then it turns out that they didn't really want that. And of course, this gets into the whole quantum reality, changing time, changing the past type of thing, and how that can affect the future. That's all very tricky stuff. How you can change one little thing in the past, and apparently that can have a huge implication on the future. If you want to test this, though, if you want to test hopping timelines and changing things, I encourage you to do this. I encourage you to practice speaking to your younger self, or to your inner child. Think of a time where you were disappointed as a child, and you were upset, and you cried about it. I want you to envision yourself as you are right now, hugging that inner child and telling them that it's okay. That it's okay to be disappointed. It's okay to cry. It's okay to feel lost. But inform that child and let them know without a shadow of a doubt that they will make it through and that they'll be okay and that you are there for them. It seems kind of like a weird practice, but I have done this several times. And it's interesting the kind of changes that you'll feel, because they will be sort of subtle at first, but it's interesting what happens when you actually go back to these moments. And me just saying that, you probably thought about at least several moments where you were really upset. You can go back and speak to your inner child and tell them that they're okay, that they're loved, that they're supported, and that they have every right to feel what they feel. But this right here is actually timeline hopping, because our imaginations are so powerful that we can actually put ourselves back in that situation and we can feel what we felt then, because those energies and those vibrations are still encoded within our DNA. They are encoded into our own Akashic records, so you actually can access that timeline. You can hop timelines. You can go into the future if you want to. You don't need a time machine. You don't need an external machine to hop timelines. You can do it now. You can do it right now. So, as I've said, going back to this whole Mother Earth being pregnant, with Venus, of course, being a traditional ruler of Taurus, being here on the galactic center point with Jupiter, expansion, there are infinite possibilities on how this thing can go, on how this story can go. And each and every one of us are casting our ballot. We are casting our ballot. And as I said, some of you have come back to this timeline to recast your ballot, because you come from a timeline where it didn't turn out the way that you thought. But there are beings out there that some people are coming back to make sure that their ballot remains unchanged for good reasons. Some people are trying to rig this fucking election. They're trying to rig this election. You think that all these elections and all this political stuff in our world are intense and crazy? It's got nothing on the galactic politics. It's got nothing on the galactic politics. You don't think that there are galactic politics? You need to wake up to the reality. There are galactic politics here. Galactic politricks. As above, so below. As within, as without. So, there is some galactic political corruption going on right now. And of course, yes, I'm revealing secrets as a Scorpio. I'm speaking on these things. Mercury's in Scorpio. It's in my 12th house, so I'm going to be speaking on these things, right? But it's interesting. I'm not personally worried, because I get information as it comes to me. So, but I will say this though. There are beings out there, and there are forces that are trying to rig the vote. They're trying to rig your vote. How do they rig your vote? By trying to influence you in certain ways. By trying to keep you in particular behavior patterns. I know this has happened to me. They're trying to rig my vote too. Don't think I'm not aware of this. They're trying to rig my vote. Trying to make it so it's like, oh, but what's the point of doing that? What's the point of making that change? What's the point of going in that direction? What's the point in taking that chance? Look at all of your anecdotal evidence from before. Nothing really happened, so what is the point? That's kind of one of the ways that our vote can be rigged, because there'll be this voice that comes on in our head that'll be like, what's the point? Why would you do that? And it's and sometimes we go along with that voice because it does seem like it's trying to protect us from something potentially bad to happen. Why would I ask that person now if they rejected me 3 times? I don't know. You never know. That 4th time may be the lucky one. Or why would I bother trying to go for that job? It's way above my current pay grade. It's way above where I currently value myself. Whoa. You never know. Why don't you go for it? Why would I want to try and open up that business? I have to hop through so many hoops just to even try and get there. How do I know people are going to want to buy my products? Why would I go for that? Oh, but you never know. This is Jupiter we're talking about. This is Venus we're talking about. This is the Sun we're talking about. All in Sagittarius. Hope. And then hope begins to translate to trust and faith. Begins to translate into, you do it that one time and it works out. Oh, wow. It worked out. And then you do it again. 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 And then you build up this feedback loop. This feedback loop of this consistent action that has yielded results. Sure, it may not necessarily yield the results that your mind is trying to project, but damn it, it's yielding results. I'll give you a perfect example. I'm doing the NaNoWriMo challenge. I haven't been writing much lately. I'm probably not going to beat the challenge. There are 7 days left. I probably will get to halfway. I'm going to try and get to like 30K. We'll see what happens. But this is the most I've ever written in this challenge. And this is the most I have written in a long time on a particular story. I didn't write yesterday, but the day before I wrote, and I introduced some conflict into the story that I can already feel that's going to actually like propel it forward. And it's like, wow, I may not beat this external, challenge of write 50,000 words in 1 month. I showed myself and I proved to myself that I can actually write a story. That I actually can write a longer story if I wanted to, not just do poetry all the time. I love poetry, but I proved to myself that I can do it. I also proved to myself, I'm like, you know what? I can see how authors can have 5,000 word days, 10,000 word days, 20,000 word days. I can see how it's possible because I've had multiple sessions where I just cranked out almost 2,000 words in maybe 30 minutes. I had no idea that I can even do that, but I proved to myself that I could. I proved to myself that I actually can write that much, and with enough focus and with enough courage and just belief in myself, I know that if I set aside a day or two or three, and I set aside, let's just say if I set aside a day, and I'm like, all right, I'm going to focus on this thing, and I'm going to write for 2 25-minute intervals over the course of an hour with a 10-minute break in between, and I did that for like 5 hours, I know I could hit 5,000 words. Just like that. Probably more. With enough intense focus and clarity, I know I could hit it. And I proved that to myself. Hope. Give me hope. Yeah, I may not have reached the goal of 50K. There's still time, but I'd have to write a lot, let's be real. But I proved to myself that I could. And that is something that makes me really, really happy. So each and every one of us, we're kind of being confronted with this energy where it's like, you absolutely can do it. But here's the thing, there's going to be this voice that comes in that's going to try and corrupt your vote. And yes, you can vote with your words, but this is more so voting with our actions, right? This is a vote with our actions. This is also a very rare moment. I have the chart pulled up here, and you're not going to be able to see it, but I have a chart pulled up here, and Jupiter has, a 12 to 13 year cycle. So it spends about 13 months or so in each sign. So the last time that Jupiter and Venus met in Sagittarius was actually not the last time that Jupiter was in Sagittarius. Which is interesting, right? It wasn't even the last time that Jupiter was there, because Venus had already flown by Jupiter by that point, by the time that Jupiter got to Sag. The last time that they actually conjuncted in this space was in 1995. The day after my birthday, ironically. It was in 1995 where Venus and Jupiter were conjuncting at 19 degrees of Sagittarius. 1995? That's a while ago, guys. Here are some other interesting energies about that day. Saturn was in Pisces at 18 degrees, squaring Venus and Jupiter. Mars was also in Sagittarius too, though, at 21 degrees, so there was an effective square right there as well. You also had Uranus in Capricorn and Neptune in Capricorn at 23 degrees and 27 degrees respectively, making a square over to the North Node in Libra. The Moon was getting ready to conjunct Chiron that day. Mercury and the Sun were together in Scorpio, and Pluto had just freshly moved into Sagittarius. It was at 0 degrees of Sagittarius. There were no energies in the bottom half of the zodiac, or in the top half, well, bottom half of the zodiac, yes. There were no energies in the first 6 signs. No Aries, no Taurus, no Gemini, no Cancer, no Leo, no Virgo. All the energies were on the other side of the zodiac. The only energy that was in that half of the zodiac was Earth. If you track the Earth, it's opposite of the Sun, so it was actually opposite of the Sun in its home sign of Taurus. That was the only energy. That was the last time that Jupiter and Venus conjuncted. And what's interesting about this energy is that what's interesting about it is that back then when they conjuncted, there was this sort of feeling of an isolation, since we live here on the earth, in the earth, wherever one you want to say it. Since all these energies were in the upper half of the zodiac, they were effectively in the heavens, whereas the earth was isolated by itself over in Taurus. Even the moon was into the heavens because it was in Libra at that time. So there's this feeling of isolation. And as far as the meeting in Sagittarius, there's still this whole destiny aspect, but at that time, the galactic center point was still at 26 degrees of Sagittarius. So they weren't quite there yet. They weren't quite there yet. But, interesting enough, the North Node was actually sextile that energy. Oh, the North Node was sextile the galactic center point during that time. So we're here on Earth, and we're like, all these energies are like up in the high heavens and stuff like that, and it does kind of feel like isolated, right? 1995. And of course, you fast forward to the next time that Jupiter would be in Sagittarius. And what's interesting about this time is that by the time that Jupiter even reached Sagittarius, go forward, hold on, go forward another month. Okay. They were in Sagittarius at the same time briefly, but they didn't conjunct in Sagittarius because they conjuncted actually at the end of Scorpio back in 2006. So once again, right around my birthday. But that was when they conjuncted. Venus had moved into Sagittarius. Jupiter was still in Scorpio, and by the time that Jupiter even reached Sagittarius, Venus was already at 9 degrees of Sag. So they weren't very close to each other. There's still some influence. The sun was there, but that was the last time they kind of got close to feeling this energy. Pluto was also at 25 degrees of Sagittarius, by the way. Interesting enough. And Saturn was trining over. But that was the last time that it got close to this energy. And I don't believe Venus retrograded while it was in Sagittarius either. I'm pretty sure Venus was just charging ahead in 2006. And by the time Venus actually reached Capricorn, Jupiter had barely gotten to like 3 degrees or so. That's the last time we felt this energy. So that's what makes this time so huge, because they're meeting at such a big spot. Not only that, but we actually have energies in the bottom half of the zodiac now. We have Chiron in Aries. We have Uranus in Taurus, which is huge because that's where the Earth was the last time that Venus and Jupiter conjuncted exactly in Sagittarius. Why is that huge? Uranus it rules the heavens. It is the heavens. And it's actually about bringing heaven to earth. And of course, with the moon being in Sag during this conjunction, that effectively puts Earth in Gemini. So we actually, and Uranus is also, it's, Saturn, they say, is the ruler of time, but Uranus is really about, hopping time and time skipping and time jumping and stuff. So we are voting right now on what timelines we are going to manifest. How do I know we're voting? Well, Mars, planet of action, is in Scorpio, and it's opposing Uranus during this conjunction. Yeah. Yeah. Isn't that crazy? You can go and look this up, and I'll probably make another video, maybe going a little bit more in detail about this. But what's interesting about it is the fact that when Jupiter and Venus conjunct exactly at 28 degrees of Sagittarius, Mars and Uranus will pretty much be opposing each other exactly. Pretty much. Now, what is interesting about this, because the opposition in many ways is kind of ruling over how we're going to vote. Mars is the planet of action. But since Mars is in Scorpio, it's actually going to have more power over this. Whereas if Uranus was in a sign that it was, ruling, Uranus doesn't even like to be in Taurus, first of all, it would be almost sort of like said, Uranus would be like, no, all right, this is the way that's going to be, and you don't really have much of a say in it. But Mars is in Scorpio. Mars and the moon is going to be on top of Mars at the same time. So there can be a great potential to be making an emotional decision about the fate of the world and the fate of these converging timelines and how we're actually going to experience this thing. The moon is going to be on top of Mars, which is going to give it even more power. And then Mercury is going to be here in Scorpio. Yes, it's direct, but it's still in shadow. So even though we're getting more clarity, we don't even know necessarily how this is going to go because Mercury is still in the dark. It's actually really dark because if it's in shadow and it's already in one of the darkest signs of Scorpio, quote unquote, we are all going to be making a decision in the dark with very little sight about the future of this world. No pressure. But this is why I spoke to having the vision, because Sagittarius is very much so about vision. It's not what we can see with our two eyes. This is about what we can see, I guess you could say the third eye, or our heart space. The inner light. It's not what we can see externally, right? Because Uranus and Taurus, Taurus is about this physical reality, so it can't be about the external reality. But that's not what this is about. This is about our vision. It's about seeing with our inner light and our inner core. But I will say, when this happens, it's going to happen tomorrow, Sunday, Sunday morning, when this conjunction finally occurs, or at least in the morning in the Eastern time zone. Mars will be at 3 degrees and Uranus will be at 3 degrees. Why is this also important, guys? Let's just drill down. We already talked about 2 + 8 = 10, correlating to the Taurus energy where Uranus is. Uranus at 3 degrees, Mars is at 3 degrees. 3 degrees in numerology is ruled by Jupiter and Sagittarius energy. Oh, wow. So it's saying that even if we're in the dark about this decision that we're about to make, or this ballot that we're about to cast, right? Even though we're in the dark about it, we have to look to our deeper vision. We have to look to that 28-degree point. We have to look to that conjunction point of Jupiter and Venus on the galactic center point in Sagittarius. And they haven't conjuncted here since 1995, and that was at 19 degrees. Interesting. 1 + 9 also = 10. So it seems like this moment has been a long time in the making. A long time in the making. You know what's also interesting? The North Node will be at 8 degrees of Cancer. South Node at 8 degrees of Capricorn, respectively, which is about decision making. The North Node has not been at 8 degrees of Cancer in quite a long time. Probably like 18 years or so. Probably like 18 years or so. It's been a long time since Cancer's even been at this degree. So no pressure. I know it went deep. I know I talked about a lot of stuff in this, and it would be helpful. I encourage you. It will be helpful for you to, while you're listening to this, if you can, if you're listening to this while you're in the car, obviously, I want you to be safe and don't do that. Don't do this. But if you go back and you want to listen to this, you want to follow with me, just on the internet and type in Planet Watcher, and you can kind of look at some of these aspects with me, because then it'll give you kind of a clearer picture on, what you're looking for and stuff. So, and I'll even put somewhere in the description below. I may even make like a video tomorrow actually going more over some of these aspects, because I think they're really, really important. But don't waste this time. And don't necessarily feel pressure to try and make some sort of big life-changing decision right now, but just move in the direction that your heart is taking you. Move in the direction that your heart is taking you. That's just what I would say. I think it's kind of interesting too because usually, when are the election days usually? It's usually like that first week of November, or is it the second week of November? I just want to look it up real fast because I'm just election day. Just real fast. Election day, 2020. What day is it usually? November 3rd. It's interesting. So it usually isn't that first week or so. November 3rd. So I think that's kind of interesting because usually on so if we go ahead a year, November 3rd, this is going to be on a Tuesday. The sun's actually going to be at 11 degrees that day. The sun's going to be at 11 degrees on election day. I know election day usually here in the States is usually, beginning the second decan of Scorpio. So when the conjunction happens with Venus and Jupiter, Mercury's going to be really close to that degree. Mercury's going to be at 12 degrees actually. So it's really close. It's really close to the degree that election day usually happens as far as where the sun will be. Mercury is really close there. But it is about taking that next step. So also, once again, 1 + 2 = 3, which is Sagittarius energy, which points even more to this whole Venus-Jupiter conjunction. Huge one. Very massive. I encourage you to go outside and look up at the stars and to look up at Jupiter and Venus. I encourage you to take in that energy. I encourage you to do the best that you can with your given circumstances, to not sweat the small stuff, and to just enjoy life. Just enjoy life. I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. I love you all so much. Thank you so much for joining me on episode 9 of the Astrology Is Now podcast. And I trust that you all will have a beautiful weekend. I will see you guys very soon on the other side of this conjunction. This is a huge moment, guys. This is a huge moment. No pressure. I love you all. Y'all take care. And always remember, my beautiful brothers and sisters, always remember to keep moving forward, to stay focused, and Yahoo! Smile often.
This is the outro for the Astrology Is Now podcast, hosted by yours truly, Astro Fenixx. I appreciate you all sharing this time and space with me, and I trust that this message resonates with you, and I trust that you have a beautiful rest of your day, evening, wherever you are in the world. Now go out there and be that badass spiritual being that you are and always have been and always will be. Peace!